Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay, and welcome to the Battle for Azeroth beta, the second pass for the Retribution Paladin. In this video, I'm going to go over talent adjustments, spells and abilities lost or gained, what's been kept from your Legion artifacts or legendaries, or anything pulled forward from Legion overall, any new graphics, which you saw one on the title card there, a brief overview of the War Mode talents, and any GCD changes. There is no true gameplay in this series, however, I'll definitely show off that new animation on the target dummies. So consider this a one-man podcast walkthrough primer of what your spec is going to be like going from Legion into Battle for Azeroth. The entire testing VOD is linked down below in the description. It's over on my Twitch channel. You can check that out there if you want to see all the nitty-gritty. And then finally, leave your comments, concerns, questions, thoughts down in the comment section down below. I usually check the first couple of days after a video goes up. And then if you're new to the channel and enjoy my ramblings, then consider hitting subscribe to keep up to date with all the second passes left to go, and of course the live shows to come in Battle for Azeroth. And if you want to be notified when those happen, hit that bell icon next to subscribe. The Retribution Paladin. I guess the heavy sigh and the pause is because I want to open the can of worms by starting the video off by saying this may or may not be a very fun thing for you to realize and accept as a Ret Paladin, but you're not really an AoE class anymore. And I know there was a fun AoE-ish rotation, Divine Hammer being a part of that. Obviously, the echoing Divine Storms and throwing your Divine Storms, like, what is it, like 10, 12 yards in front of you, which may or may not be a thing you enjoy. Obviously, that's gone, but Ret is not an AoE class anymore. You've heard me talk about this before. More or less, there are 5 styles of damage in World of Warcraft. Single target, burst single target, cleave cross dot, that's the same one. Then there is AoE and burst AoE. 5 main types of damage, styles of damage in World of Warcraft. Retribution is now very single target and burst single target focused. It has AoE, and I'll show you the rotation when we get there, and the build you can obviously take for it. However, it's definitely just not an AoE monster anymore. It just won't be. So that's just not going to be your focus in Battle for Azeroth. That being said, as well, when I'm recording this video, a couple days ago, when we were doing the actual live testing, there is a big old blue post by Seth on the forums saying that there are some changes still on the horizon for the Retribution Paladin. I will preface and we'll sort of talk about them as the video goes through, but the big one is that your talent, so your talent Blade of Wrath, is becoming baseline, being called Art of War, which has the auto attacks RPPM style chance to reset Blade of Justice's cooldown. The talent then, Blade of Wrath, will increase the amount of RPPM you will grant, and then you will also gain a damage amp on Blade of Wrath when it resets. Still has the inherent cannibalistic nature of it's always going to come off cooldown, but it procs, but at least it'll do more damage when it does proc to offset that. Additionally, in the post, Divine Purpose is being nerfed or cut down to a 15% chance when you use holy power consuming abilities. But the next ability you use, either your Divine Storm or your Templar's Verdict, will be amplified by an amount. I think he said 20% in the post, but that's obviously up to your numbers tuning. So the biggest change to Divine Purpose there is the AoE component and having the additional benefit of having Divine Storms proc over and over and over again for the possible burst AoE. But again, why I wanted to preface the whole Ret Paladin may not be an AoE class or at least have a big AoE focus anymore, that is going to be obviously a rotational change because you'll have the baseline procs of Blade of Wrath and you'll have also, you can spec Divine Purpose, which of course I can show off the build, but that's obviously going to be all baselineable with this anyway, and then you can talent into that. So again, there's a post. I've recognized the post is there. I couldn't hold off recording this video because I have a schedule to keep up to, or at least try to keep up to, but it is there. I know it's there. Next build probably in a couple of days from now or so. Overall, some baseline changes other than the AoE stuff has definitely hit the Retribution Paladin. Most notably, Retribution. Your whole weird die for me in my cooldown so I can do more damage than you would passive. It's 20% damage and 30% DR for 10 seconds now, which is down from 20 seconds. So it's a little bit less impactful, sort of. It's still supposed to be like a PvP passive, right? Like your ally dies next to you defending the farm, and then you're like, Ret Paladin. But that's in raids and PvE content. It's always been sort of like this weird tuning knob that if the stars align, then you'll obviously do way more damage than you're supposed to, but they have cut it back down slightly. Additionally to that, the mastery change and the judgment change, which I'll go over when I get to the dummies here, is a pretty huge one. So now your mastery is back to Hand of Light, which just increases all the holy damage you do flatly by a flat amount of your mastery. Just all holy damage. There you go. Hand of Light. No more weird judgment damage. No more weird judgment window madness. Pfft. All gone. Shield of Vengeance has also been updated. I opened the video with casting this. This is now 30% of total health, and then your versatility is tossed in there, of course. No longer a spell power or attack power based modifier. And mastery does not impact the damage of Shield of Vengeance, but it also will deal partial. If whatever damage is absorbed into the shield before it expires naturally, or of course if it's totally eaten up like it is on live, it'll do partial damage. So if only half of your shield gets eaten by some AoE or some dot, when it times out, it'll do whatever damage that was left. So you can always still gain the DPS benefit from Shield of Vengeance, and there's no weird attack power scaling anymore. It's just your HP. So basically eye level, right? Stamina. So that is that. Avenging Wrath has been updated across the board for all paladins. Prot and Ret are the same, and Holies is tweaked up a little bit in value. But now it's 20% damage, healing, and crit chance for 20 seconds. Instead of just the flat damage and healing amp. So I don't know if this removes possible want of crit, because obviously getting more in this window values it or devalues it depending on some extra whatever breakpoints and how, you know, your mastery will now impact that and how much haste you're going to want for like GCD and cooldown reduction, that kind of stuff. But that's the Avenging Wrath baseline. Divine Steed was nerfed, added 15 seconds to the cooldown. Sucks, but Blessing of Freedom had its buff reverted. No longer does it going to have a longer cooldown, but make you immune to knockbacks or pulls, pushes, and that kind of stuff. They took that out in a recent build. But you can cast it. The tooltip, this is a bug I'm going to report. The tooltip says party or raid members. You can cast it on any friendly target. You can actually go cast it on NPCs. Or not. It was the other day. Probably not that NPC. Maybe a guard NPC. We were casting it on NPCs of the day just to make sure it worked. But we also did cast it outside of party, and that worked just fine as well. But that's a pretty interesting bug you have to deal with on live right now. You just can't cast it outside of your party for some reason. Let me try this guy over here. This is the Borealis guard we did the other day on. Yeah, see? So, I'm not a complete moron. I mean, just mostly a moron. But there you go. So, the Judgment window thing has been totally gone. It's just poof. So, Judgment now debuffs the target to take 25% increased damage from your next ability that costs holy power. No more of this weird window madness. So, your next Templar's Verdict, in this case, for a single target, would deal additional damage. Also, Judgment right now does give you 1 holy power when you use it. It's a builder now. There's some feedback on the forums that was getting some traction about how Judgment should just reduce the cost of the next ability, because Ret still has a possibility to waste holy power sometimes, or be put in a situation where you would possibly, like right now. So I want to obviously judge, but I'm not going to. That's a waste of holy power, so I'm going to judge after that and then TV into that after that. So there's a weird little feeling in there that it's kind of strange. But we'll see if they make any adjustments to that. But as Ret, you never want to waste holy power, and you obviously want to weave around the Judgment debuff. And then, of course, in the AoE sense, when you're AoEing, you're going to still obviously have a priority target, and the priority target will take additional damage from your Glitter Storm when you do, of course, Glitter Storm them. The caster, right, the one that fears whatever have you, that's going to be still your main priority. So that'll take increased damage from your Glitter Storm. So that's basically the big overall rotational updates to the Retribution Paladin. Overall, it flows really well. I have some talents active right now that, of course, we'll go into in a moment. I have the Art of War new passive. I have the Blade of Wrath talent right now. This will be baseline again, so these procs you're seeing will be just part of the core class. Those won't be a talented thing. If you talented them, you'll get more of them. But again, Blade of Justice does physical damage versus your Mastery doing all of the holy damage amp, so... But those procs right there, which may or may not have a different priority. I wasted a proc right there because I had it off cooldown, but I didn't actually react to it fast enough. So there'll be a little bit of a mini game involved in making sure you don't waste those procs because, again, they can cannibalize each other a little bit. But I do believe the Art of War Blade of Wrath passive is 3 or 3.5 RPPM times haste, so roughly 4 to 5 procs per minute, once every 10 seconds or so. The weird thing that I'll go into now if I bring up the talents, and of course I'll plop up your live talent so you can see a lot has changed. Zeal, the new version of Zeal, which you're seeing right there whenever I judge. This is a judging a foe empowers you with Holy Zeal, causing your next 3 auto attacks to occur 50% faster and deal some additional holy damage, which of course will scale with your mastery, which is nice. That does not affect an RPPM. There was a lot of confusion during the live stream about this. RPPM, or real procs per minute, does not matter how much you attack to gain the overall benefit. Unless I'm totally a moron in this. RPPMs, you could swing 10 times in a minute or 1,000 times in a minute. You'll still only average out over a combat length 3.5 times haste RPPM. That is sort of how the RPPM system works. Normally, you're going to have a proc right when you walk into combat or soon after combat because the sort of reset behind the scenes has happened. But because you'll attack faster, you may think and feel you're getting your RPPM more often. But you do like a 5-minute boss fight and you're getting, 4 procs per minute. You'll look over your 5 minutes and you'll average out over the course of 5 minutes, 4 procs per minute. You may get 7 or 8 in the first minute, but over the next couple of minutes, you may only get like 2. That's how RPPM works behind the scenes. So don't get that conflicted. That's a haste-based system. This is an auto-attack-based system. Different math in the back end, which may or may not be confusing, but that's just, a Blizzard math. But anyway, your live talents here. So let me bring these up for you. Quite a bit has changed in the overall scheme of things. So talents removed. Greater Judgment, kind of. Legion's version of Zeal, Legion's version of Execution Sentence, Virtue's Blade, Divine Hammer, Divine Intervention, Judgment of Light, and Holy Wrath. The last one, though. Can we get a round of applause for Holy Wrath, everybody? Way to perform in the whole expansion. Whew, that talent, though. Talents that were added. BFA's version of Zeal, BFA's version of Execution Sentence, Righteous Verdict, the upcoming Blade of Wrath to Art of War passive, and then the new Blade of Wrath passive talent there. Hammer of Wrath, woohoo! This looks like crap, though. Don't get too excited. Wake of Ashes, Divine Judgment, Unbreakable Spirit, the updated Divine Purpose, and then Inquisition. Righteous Verdict, which is the next talent in your 15 tier. This is your legendary cloak. Templar's Verdict increases the damage of your next Templar's Verdict within 6 seconds by 15%. So that just trails forward if you keep TVing, right? You'll be able to keep that 15% uptime there. And the new Execution Sentence, the version on live right now is the weird like delayed dot, like the one hit you want to put in the Judgment window. That's gone. And I said Greater Judgment's kind of gone. So Execution Sentence now, which I think is a pretty good version of this, has some gameplay elements around it. 3 holy power, 30-second cooldown, calls down the light's punishment upon the targeted enemy target, one target, dealing a whole bunch of holy damage. Just put it in perspective here. A Templar's Verdict with my current gear right on this crappy character is 1646 holy. Execution Sentence is just slightly more than that, just a little bit more than that. And it increases the target's holy damage taken from you by 20% for 12 seconds. So now, I don't know if you would judge and then Execution Sentence into the Judgment window. And then you get, of course, the flat damage window this whole time. And then when it comes back around again, you can judge and then Templar's Verdict with both of them up there. You'll have the Execution Sentence window up and the Judgment window. Or do you want to layer 2 of those in the Judgment window? Because then what you can do You can wait for our cooldown to come back up here. You can just hit an execution sentence and then judge, and then of course have enough time, I believe, depending on the proc here, to have two, I would need a proc to have more holy power faster, to have 2 Templar's verdicts with the judgment and ES window in that 12 seconds. I also don't have haste. My judgment right now is only at 11 seconds, I believe. Yeah, so I need more base haste to have that cooldown reduced just enough. Like 9 seconds would be easy. So that's a little bit of an interplay. Obviously very pure single target, but of course also AoE, because you can ES the primary target, judge them, and then Sparkle Storm, like I said before. And then Righteous Verdict is that very single target TV juggle window. And then Zeal has that auto attack haste. Very easy to set and forget kind of a talent there, because it gives your auto attacks, which 40 to 50%, maybe even more sometimes, of all Melee's damage now in BFA is coming from just auto-attacking, which is kind of strange. They're kind of going back to an older school of Melee have to be in Melee to really gain the best benefit, because a lot of their damage is from actually hitting the target with white damage. So we'll see about that in the future. Fire Justice is unchanged. All your CC abilities are also unchanged down here. Eye for an Eye, Cavalier, so they're Unbreakable Spirit. The other Paladins have it. Now all 3 Paladins have it. It's just your cooldown reduction on Shield of Vengeance, Divine Shield, and Lay on Hands. So those are all the same. But to go over Hammer of Wrath real quick. So cooldown reduced by haste. No cooldown overall. Generates 1 holy power. Deals just, again, slightly more damage than Templar's Verdict. No, it's just underneath it right now. Yeah, just underneath it. Just a little bit less. Only usable on enemies that have less than 20% health as it execute, or while you're empowered by Avenging Wrath. So when you're Avenging Wrath, which I didn't talent over to, let me grab it real quick. I had it on my bar, but it threw me off. You can hammer to build. I do believe it is the highest priority damage because it does more damage than Judgment right now. Is that what I was told? Let me double check that so I don't look a complete... It's like the same damage as Judgment, a little bit less actually. Maybe that's why we talk about on stream how it's kind of like in a weird place where you do or don't prioritize it heavily, but that's just tuning. I'm not worrying about the actual numbers. So obviously Hammer of Wrath needs to go up a little bit, especially with the Blade of Wrath rework coming here soon, but that's just numbers. But overall, when the Avenging Wrath comes back around, I'll show that off. It's still the old crappy like Thunderhammer look from Warcraft 3. It's kind of eh. But Justicar's Vengeance, what we're talking about numbers, was finally nerfed to not do more damage than Templar's Verdict, which is good. Except that unless you're stunning a target, it'll do the 50% more damage, which is still bugged to do 100% more damage. That's obviously just a tooltip error, probably still. Selfless Healer is also still bugged, where the healing bonus on a friendly target does not work. The cast time reduction worked, but not the bonus. So, okay. The new Word of Glory, however, this is ridiculous. Actually just stupid. So the tooltip is hilariously broken right now, probably because they're still working on the actual amount you're supposed to heal. But it has a 40-yard range. You can cast it on yourself or a friendly target, and it will heal 2 of the most injured targets within its 40 yards for a large amount. This is going to be a single target heal on myself. That was 7,000. Look how much HP I have. That was 7,000 healing. Because the problem with a Word of Glory before was that it didn't heal for enough to cost Holy Power. Let me run over to the healing dummies real quick to see what it heals for, because I can throw the heal on something before my Holy Power ends. So way over there, I'm going to stand way over here and be like, wah! So we get almost 7k on 3 targets, and it healed 1 here, 1 here, and 1 way over here. So if you like the utility of healing in your rotation, and even just like yourself, you can burst this, right? You can have 5 holy power, spend 3, build 1, spend 3, and heal yourself for more than half your HP, roughly? That's insane. Obviously, 1 minute recharge per charge, but that is a powerful whoomph of healing versus Selfless Healer needing 3 judgments, or Justicar's Vengeance requiring 5 holy power and a stunned target to really matter. That's obviously only selfish, right? It's selfish healing. So this is a nice bump. So again, here is Hammer of Wrath. Still the same old animation, same old sound effect, but it says Hammer of Wrath. The animation like starts way outside your character, if you notice that. Like, watch how far away it starts from my dwarf. Like, she holds the hammer and then it like renders like so far in front. I don't know. It's just a complete crapshoot compared to like the Judgement animation, right? So hopefully they update that. I don't know. Maybe there's some nostalgia that you want that old animation, but let's be real. The other animations Red Pally has right now, especially that, right? That is a little bit weird to throw that old hammer. But we'll see. Additionally, Inquisition comes back. This is 1 to 3 holy power. Up to 3 holy power is consumed, increasing your damage and haste by 8% for 15 seconds per holy power consumed. The old uptime passive in a way. Divine Purpose went over that earlier. They has the updates coming around the corner here. And then Crusade saw some minor tweaks. So Crusade on live is 3% haste and damage for 20 seconds, up to 45%, 45%, but less time. The BFA version now is 3% haste and damage for 25 seconds, up to 30-30. Only has 10 stacks versus 15 stacks. So still very much a bursty talent. Much easier to actually build to that amount and then have the benefit. But remember, again, this is haste and damage, whereas Avenging Wrath is crit chance, healing, and damage, but only at 20% versus the ceiling of 30% on Crusade. So very much a different potential. Obviously, again, going over Word of Glory, I don't know if you want to take Crusade in a PvP situation, because having Avenging Wrath active on top of the Word of Glory burst healing could be a super trolly or super amazing moment of power for you to feel, because the extra crit chance and extra flat healing on that, it's pretty nice. Because again, you're still a hybrid, you're still like a healer that does the damages in like the lore sense, right? Save your allies, don't just, you know, go face, not a hunter. So, but that's Crusade. Inquisition has a bit, I think it's the old animation for Inquisition. It looks kind of like the old whatchamacallit, the oh, I have it on A. The old, like, seal animation? Yeah. So there's a couple of old seal-style animations there that just kind of bring back a little bit of that old flair. And again, we'll have some Hammers of Justice in there. But the quadruple wings looks kind of strange, but the wing effect on the Templar's Verdict looks way better than the regular wings, so teach their own, I suppose, depending on what you like to look for. But that is all of your single targety stuff. I left your AoE tier for last. So Divine Judgment you saw right there. Each enemy hit by an ability that consumes holy power will increase the damage of your next judgment by 15% up to 15 stacks. You have a slight AoE talent here. So this is just going to be that if you AoE a whole bunch of mobs with Sparkle Storm, you're going to gain a buff to Judgment to let it burst harder, which you can get some pretty savage Judgment hits in here. I don't, you know, don't doubt that. Let's actually try to AoE all these, because it goes to 15 stacks, right? And that's nice, but it means you're delaying your Judgment overall, which is kind of weird. Boy, that's a huge 5k hit, where normally it hits for like 1,000 something. So that's okay. I don't know if that's better to delay Judgment like that, or if it's just like a rotational passive to help with, like, if you're cleaving off non-priority ads and then you're judging the main target that could be there. The Consecration change right now is good and strange. So Consecration now only lasts for 6 seconds on a 20-second cooldown. So it does all of its bursty AoE damage in 6 seconds with a longer cooldown. So you can definitely rotate. It gives you 1 holy power as well. You can also rotate this, of course, into your AoE rotation. That's sort of how it's going to be. But the reason why it lasts only 6 seconds and not a longer duration like the other Consecrates for holy and prot are because you can move and make sure you're updating with the tank movement or whatever, and then you're dropping your Consecrate to take advantage of that little burst window. For AoE anyway, right? And then Wake of Ashes, you know what it does on live. It's a 45-second cooldown that causes radiant damage to all enemies in front of you in a wide arc. And it does the 50% movement speed snare for 5 seconds. It stuns undead and demon for 5 seconds. It generates 5 holy power. So very much your opener. Definitely gets the rotation going. It's burst AoE potential, obviously. You can take advantage of the execution sentence window by building and then ESing and then Wake of Ashes and then Judgment and then TV. Like, there's some burst potential here, and it has some AoE, but obviously not a lot of AoE because, again, Retribution Paladin isn't really an AoE class, at least for BFA. Definitely has some AoE, but just like not its main focus. But that's the overall kit. PvP talents, real quick, if you don't know what the war mode is, of course you can follow along on a talent calculator. War mode is turned on in your capital city, Stormwind and Orgrimmar. This gives you 15% more XP from killing monsters and completing quests, and additional rewards at max level for doing world quests. You'll get additional bonus honor for defeating members of the opposite faction. If you go on a 10+ kill streak, you'll become an assassin, which has a bounty system associated with it. You will gain 15% more damage and healing done until you die. If you kill enemy assassins, you gain more bonus honor. If you are, of course, killed, you give more bonus honor. And then you can pick any of the medallion-style talents here, right? And then you can take any talent combination of any of your PvP talents in this entire drop-down panel. So we took Hammer of Reckoning, which is the long-form cooldown, like big burst Hammer of Wrath, I guess. When your allies or yourself would have greater blessings on them, take damage, you gain Reckoning, and at 50 stacks, you can use Reckoning to hurl a hammer that strikes the enemy for a large amount of holy damage, and you'll gain Avenging Wrath for 6 seconds. We have Lawbringer, where Judgment will now apply the Lawbringer debuff to targets hit by it for 45 seconds. You no longer have an AoE Judgment, though, so the wording is kind of in that vein still. And then casting Judgment causes all enemies with your Lawbringer effect to suffer up to 5% of their maximum health and holy damage. So you want to, like, tab through and Judgment more people, and then they'll all take more damage as you move your Judgments around. And then Divine Punisher, casting 2 consecutive Judgments on the same enemy will generate 3 holy power. So this build right here is very much like you just tunnel someone down, and your Judgment will deal more damage, the extra HP damage, and then of course will generate more holy power for you to keep bursting. So, but again, you pick whatever you want, right? Cleansing Light, Law and Order, Jurisdiction, Seraphim's Blessing, Blessing of Sanctuary, Vengeance Aura, Holy Ritual, Unbound Freedom, or Luminescence. And again, you can go check all these out, right? This is the long form cooldown version of Cleanse Toxins, which is a 15-yard AoE cleanse. Law and Order is your Hand of Hindrance, is either dispelled or otherwise removed early. The cooldown is reduced, and your Blade of Justice, which applies Hand of Hindrance to the target by 3 seconds. Remember, Blade of Wrath, the Art of War passive coming here soon, so having a built-in snare would be nice. Jurisdiction is the range of Hammer of Justice. Seraphim's Blessing is when you are nearby allies within 40 yards, drop below 40% health. Your next flash of light cast within 5 seconds is instant, with 50% increased healing. You can stack this with Selfless Healer if this actually gets fixed. Blessing of Sanctuary removes all stun, silence of fear, and horror effects from the friendly target and reduces the duration of such effects by 60% for the next 5 seconds. Vengeance Aura. All these again have, like, it's either you or nearby allies with your greater blessings on them. Within 40 yards, become a victim to a full loss of control effect. Your holy damage and crit will be increased by 4% for 10 seconds up to 4 times. So again, more of that, like if you're hurting my friends, I'm gonna get buffed. Holy Ritual is that allies are healed by an amount whenever you cast a blessing on them and healed again when the blessing ends. Unbound Freedom is a 30% sprint on freedom, and Luminescence is when you are healed by an ally, you will also radiate some healing within 20 yards of you for 20% of that amount from someone else, not your own healing. So a lot of potential for world questy builds, or obviously PvP builds and arenas, battlegrounds, PvP islands, and that kind of like. But you can make your own whatever you'd like to build right there. But that is the rather updated not Holy Paladin, that was last time. The Retribution Paladin. Overall, a lot of good baseline tweaks. I know that people are going to definitely miss the AoE cluster you could definitely do with Divine Hammer and all of your echoing madness, but that is obviously no longer the case in Battle for Azeroth. But thank you very much for listening. If you were, of course, new to the channel and enjoy my ramblings, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button or the bell icon next to subscribe, because that is going to be a notification tool to let you know when new content hits the channel. Additionally, of course, if you want to support what I do in a more physical manner, I do have a pretty extensive apparel shop that has huge customizable options for tank top shirts, hoodies, sweaters, all this stuff, sweatshirts, girls and guys, different cuts, all these things. And these are all the art is designed by members of our community. So the little final bosses are by Fabolina. And then Tutron designs a whole bunch of stuff. We just had his new all over print shirt come out. He's designed both my all over prints, but I mean, who wants to put my face all over themselves? I mean, unless you want to. But supporting my channel through these means, of course, makes me able to keep making art with our artists in our community. Additionally, Fabolina has new shirts coming out. This is the, as I'm going to, it's a small preview. That's all you can see. So we have a shirt coming out that's inspired by the Guerrillas' old Demon Days album, which is the Battle Azerite Days shirt. These are not available just yet, but they will be hitting the store very soon. They are customizable with or without text, multiple colors, different styles of the actual shirt, men's and women's, different styles. But that's by Fabolina, and she's already working on another shirt right now. So again, if you want to help support what I do here and the artists in our community, because I commissioned them to make these for us, then check the link in the description box down below. But thank you very much for listening to my ramblings and watching my whatever this is. I will see you all in the next BFA Beta Second Pass video.